half an hour late, no backdrop, no good lighting, but we're here. So you may or may not have seen, I posted on Twitter saying I'm on holiday. So I'm technically on holiday right now. I'm not in the UK. And I thought I'd have the smart idea of bringing all the things I needed to do a show and like do it on the road, and then I could test if I could do that in future so they can keep the time slot and all that kind of stuff. Please do let me know if you can hear me, all the standard things. But yeah, so I did bring the stuff like so I could do it on the road. But then there was quite a few tech issues. I maybe left it a little bit late, only left like half an hour to check tech issues. Got in, first thing, realised I had a bit of duct tape stuck over my laptop camera for years, and I took it off, and it just looked like I was underwater. So that was suboptimal. Yeah, and then pulled the table out to sit here in the place of good lighting in the lovely place that I'm staying, and the table collapsed. So that was hilarious. But yeah, I think we've got some kind of a show to put together today. So if this is your first time seeing Turf Wars, stop the video, go watch a better episode, because usually it's so high production, it's all amazing, and I've planned everything out. I'm kind of just like flying by the seat of my pants on this one. I kind of think what I'm going to talk about. I know what I'm going to talk about, but it's we'll see. I'm going to get some rants in. It's not going to be a super long episode, though I do say that every time. But also, one maybe bonus feature of this is I have a lovely assistant who is maybe going to hand me a drink for each topic. So I'm on because I'm on holiday, I'm on the Aperol Spritz. So cheers, everyone. Don't actually have normal water, so that's my way of making sure I sound okay. But yeah, I hope. Oh, the mic keeps crackling. Why does the mic keep crackling? That is very annoying. How bad is it? Is it like terrible? Keeps going crackly. Why would it keep going crackly? That's so annoying. I'm not really sure what to say about the mic going dodge. Oh, maybe it's my hair. I've got these special in-ear earbuds that are also the microphone. So please give me feedback. Now I've moved my hair out of the way. I just want to know if it's still a problem. If not, then we'll just carry on. You know, I seem to always have audio issues anyway. It's not too bad. It's not that great, is it? I mean, fuck it. We're just winging it. I'm on holiday. This is my first ever show on the road. This is it. We're just gonna have to deal with it. And if you think this is terrible, please go watch another episode and do come back next time, because I'll be back to full power next time I do a show, and I would have planned this out a lot better. So if I sound a little bit like a Dalek, then you'll just have to deal with Dalek mode me. And at least I've got an Aperol Spritz. I've got beach hair. I've been on the beach all day. I got really sunburnt yesterday. I did a really cringe British thing and was like, oh, I don't need that much sun cream. And my hair, my legs are bright red, so that's pretty cringe. But anyway, let's see if we can talk about some things this episode. So I don't have all my fancy little buttons. At home I've got it all set up, so I just press a button and it takes me to different places. I'm going to have to do a little bit of clicking, and hopefully this will be okay. But the first thing I wanted to talk about this week is this. So this is a story about a lady, who's a trans woman, of course, who ran the London Marathon. And she came 6,160th. Oh gosh, the drinks are stacking up. Okay. Out of, I think in her category there was 6,300 races. I haven't had time to pre-read all of the articles and highlight all the bits like I usually do for this show. So again, just kind of winging it. But yeah, she came 6,160th. And of course, the transphobes are absolutely raging because she stole a place from a biological female, which isn't true, of course. And she didn't dominate like they always say trans people always do. She also raised thousands of pounds for charity, because in order to run the London Marathon, you actually have to commit a certain amount of money, which you will raise for charity. Which of course was all just totally overlooked. I should have got the headline. I might be able to find it here actually. Let's find the Times. Let's get it down here. Times trans. So the way they implied it, like some of the other were like, oh, a trans person's, oh yeah, I haven't cheated, I've not taken someone's prize money. Like lots of these, oh god, lots of these articles by the shit British news always made it sound like she had somehow like dominated and beat all of the cis women who are running. Like they ended up bullying her into apologizing and giving back. Yeah, right. Okay, so this is the Telegraph. Trans athlete running as female in London Marathon labelled as wrong and unfair. Yeah, but you haven't given the context in that headline. It should. Oh my god, so many pop-ups. Trans athlete running as female in London, or female trans female athlete finishes 6,000th in London Marathon, labelled wrong and unfair by idiots. Might be a better headline. And Olympian says nearly 14,000 women had seen their placings worsened as a result. No one goes home and is like, oh, I came 6,161st and I'm so ruined, that's ruined my whole chance, I'm not going to carry on with my career as a runner because I didn't come 6,100. Like the whole, when you do the marathons, obviously if you're going to win, that's kind of important. If you're in the top, probably even if you wouldn't place in top 100, who knows? You're not counting it when it comes to 6,100. You're looking at your time. You're like, did I run in less than 4 hours? Did I run, and that isn't affected by a trans person placing or even running at all. It's just such a load of garbage. Like any excuse. And what I think stood out about this is this lady is just she's not a celebrity. She's just some random woman who entered in the London Marathon, raised thousands of pounds for charity, and then it's suddenly international news and is getting all this hate and abuse, so much so that you get a medal for just finishing the London Marathon, and she returned hers because she was bullied so much. 4 hours 11 minutes, that's pretty good, but it's not, not like gonna come first in the women's category or something. She raised £30,000, donating some to wheelchair users. Like it's just, and now what? So now she's not going to want to run again because she faced so much abuse. Other trans people aren't going to want to run regardless because they know that they could just become international news just for taking part. That's just so bullshit. Anyway, as usual, it's just ridiculous. As soon as anyone goes anywhere near sports, people's brains melt. So I thought talk about something a bit more hilarious now. So we had oh no, the drinks. Oh, the drinks. God. Okay, right. I'm gonna see these off. Come on. One. This is my second Aperol Spritz. Oops. That's 2 down. Right. Okay. So this is only my second topic, really, but. So there was a another drag queen story hour, and at a pub called the Honor Oak, which has had a few now, and the Nazis and the anti-trans people and the anti-gay people all turned up to protest it again. I think it was led by a group called Turning Point UK, which we've mentioned before. Turning Point is an American organisation. I think it's Charlie Kirk's organisation, if anyone knows that is. Or at least he's related to it. And this is the UK branch, and yet again, they were outnumbered by LGBT people. The first one of these protests, they had like 10 people turn up, and like hundreds of pro-LGBT people showed up. But there's, the sort of standard scenes, loads of, people there just for equality and hashtag love wins. Holding nice signs. There's quite a lot of policemen there. Um, Hundreds of counter-protesters have yet again blocked far-right activists from disrupting a family-friendly drag event at the On Oak. And whenever you see people talking about these drag queen story times or whatever, they always miss out this family-friendly part, because obviously some drag can be targeted at adults. It's an art form which sometimes is 18 plus, and that's fine. But it's always important for, gosh, too many apostrophes. It's always important for anti-LGBT people to pretend that everything LGBT people do is 18 plus. They always want to try and spin it as if being gay at all is an adult only thing. And obviously they try and link that to trans people, and they try and link that to drag as well. And it really doesn't matter to the anti-trans people protesting this, or the anti-drag people protesting this. It really doesn't matter at all what happens. Like, you could say, oh look, this is literally just a man wearing a dress reading a storybook, and they will still call it sexualization. They'll still call it grooming. They'll still imply that everyone involved was a paedophile, because it's nothing to do with the story time. It's nothing to do with, all this is an LGBT person at all is accepted, and there are children there, and that is their issue. And everything they say about, oh, I just have an issue with sexually explicit acts, that kind of stuff, they're going to say it regardless, because it's all just made up excuses. It's post hoc explanations for why they are protesting a family-friendly event. So yeah, they're saying anti-LGBT pundits such as GB News host Calvin Robinson and occasional actor Lawrence Fox. I don't know how often he acts, but not much. Have joined protesters in the past sharing misinformation about family-friendly drag events. I know that we talked before about when Calvin Robinson, when everyone was shouting "You're not real vicar" at him. So, interesting choice of pushback. But yeah, they were playing George Michael, they were dancing, and I think this is quite a good theme of kind of something I wanted to mention. I don't know if there's anything else in this article really worth pointing out. There's lots of lovely people protesting for the right thing. So something that I wanted to cover in the theme of these protests, like counter protests against anti-LGBT. So like pro-LGBT protests, where we show up and we say, no, this anti-LGBT bullshit is bad, it should stop. There's this kind of mix between, okay, we really mean this, we are here, there is a lot of us here, and we are pushing back against fascism, against anti-LGBT hatred, homophobia, transphobia, etc. But also, we're all going to dress up silly and have a dance and have a fun time and listen to George Michael or whatever. And I think it kind of goes in line like the famous incident of anti-gay rights activist Anita Bryant being hit in the face by a custard pie, and Posey Parker, anti-trans activist, having tomato juice poured on her hair. What these things are saying is like, look, we're protesting you. There is a lot of people here. This is really important to us. But also, we're not fascists like you. We're not going to have our thugs turn up doing Nazi salutes. No one's getting beaten up on the streets about this. None of the people here are, no LGBT people accusing others of being paedophiles with the kind of implication that therefore they should face extreme violence. We are going to dance in your face and dress up and throw a custard pie in your face. It's almost like a sort of, but it's like a playful but fun protest, and I think it's a good vibe because it shows other people that, shows the general cishet public that we are serious and, we mean these protests, but at the same time, we're not like them. We're not these garbage, horrific people. I also kind of wanted to point out this funny little incident. So this is No, it's the same topic, Helper. I haven't got there yet. Gosh, still got this one. Well, this is the next one, really. On the same topic. Um, Here is Bernice Allen, who is like she's sort of this generation of gender criticals of the current trans panic. She's like one of the OG gender criticals, along with Posey Parker and Dr. Stock and Mayor Forstater, the first kind of crop who have been around for about as long time as I have, talking about LGBT rights. And I I remember one of the first. She used to be on Twitter as at Dr. Radfem. I don't think she's a radical feminist, but maybe she would still identify as one. Who knows? But she, I remember one of her like first things was she was like just asking questions and did a poll like, should trans people have rights or something, like yes or no, and then most of the votes were yes, and everyone was like, how we beat this gender critical person. It was in the small days where there was only like hundreds of people talking about that on Twitter and stuff. And anyway, while lots of the other gender criticals have risen to like international fame, she hasn't, which is maybe her choice. And being a celebrity is totally shit. Do not recommend. Not that I'm a celebrity, but it's already shit being E tier celebrity, getting recognised at metal gigs and stuff. But she's still going, and she turned up, I think, to this Honor Oak protest, and there were loads of signs stuck up saying "Nazis not welcome here" and "Lewisham loves trans people," and she has posted herself tearing these signs down. Now, obviously, as a gender critical person, you would expect them to tear down "Lewisham loves trans people" because gender critical people do not love trans people. That I would see that as normal. But I feel like when you're tearing down signs that say "Nazis not welcome here," it's a bit like dubious. I mean, I guess if you're in a situation where try and look at it from their point of view, in the most extreme, good faith way, oh, we're just protesting for the rights of children to be free of sexualization. Okay, we know that's not what they're doing, but if that was what they were doing, you're calling us Nazis for no reason. So that's why I took the sign down, because I don't like the implication that whatever is not like being a Nazi is just having concerns. And that kind of would have landed with a lot of the general public in, say, 2016 when the gender critical movement was just taking off. But the last few, quite a few, gender critical rallies have had actual neo-Nazis showing up. And in fact, just yesterday in Ohio, there was a whole big group of literal flag-waving Nazis with big swastikas showing up protesting against LGBT rights. And when that happens, and especially when, Bernice Allen and Posey Parker were different people, but they were obviously still friends. If one of your mates has had Nazis show up to turn up their protest, I feel like turning down a Nazis not welcome sign is a bit just like not a good look, basically. That's what I'm saying. Right, okay, now we're going to move on to the next topic. God's sake. It's quite nice, actually. Oh, okay. So now we're moving on to if I might be able to work out the clown of the week button. I haven't worked it out. It's a hotkey. I'm not going to press it. Imagine I press the clown of the week button. For the first time viewers, imagine the production was really good, but also we just had a clown of the week music and thing. It is going to be Mayor Forstater with another top tier Mayor Forstater tweet. Because Mayor Forstater has come out with quite a lot. Quite a few zingers. And I feel like this could be one of her greatest hits. And obviously, maybe it's not as good as the time where she just described women as holes. Maybe it's not as good as the time when she had a week-long rage about alien cartoon genitals. But it's a good one. And it reads, playing the cello isn't a lot like sex. So this is her having an argument with Dr. Jane Claire Jones, who is another gender critical person who once was one of their like thought leaders, but she said, "I don't like Nazis," and has been like shoved out of the limelight, and she's kind of a nobody now. But she's basically saying, I mean, the argument here, there's quite a lot of discussion to it. But the argument here comes down to whether rape is an evolved human behavior or not. And I guess the much deeper implications of this is Jane Clare Jones is a radical feminist, and part of radical feminism is, I guess, maybe one branch of radical feminism, or maybe it's a kind of underlying assumption of a lot of it, is that human behavior and patriarchy is, social. It's not built into people. Misogyny isn't like biological destiny. And sometimes you go for people going as far as arguing for blank slate, which is where they say like the whole of every human behavior is social and it's all stuff that we've learned, and that means we could eradicate misogyny. And on the other hand, you might have these kind of right-wing evolutionary psychologist quack types who would say, oh well, oppressing women is baked into our DNA and there's nothing we can do about it, so really biology is destiny. And obviously the gender critical mainstream position is much closer to that than the kind of traditional radical feminist position. And people we feel a bit dubious saying this about Dr. Jane Clare Jones, but people with some integrity, take that with a pinch of salt please, Jane, who pretend or are radical feminists and are also gender critical, would not like the idea that rape is kind of innate. Because when you're saying trans women are inherently dangerous to cis women, the claim the gender criticals are making is that there is this thing, maleness, which is, it's effectively just an essence, but they'll claim it's some biological part of you, but that part of you, your chromosomes, your gametes, your gonads, whatever they're claiming it is at that moment in the day, that part of you is responsible for male violence. Because if you change everything, if you transition young, or you go through medical transition, or social transition, all these things, gender criticals argue none of that makes any change to you as a person. So that means whatever part is left, so it must be something like chromosomes, encodes male behavior. But if that's the case, that's like the opposite of the radical feminist claim that the majority of patriarchy is defeatable, because now we're saying we can't ever do anything about this. The best we can ever hope to do is basically carve out a space for women only and ban men from it, because there's nothing we can do to stop men from raping and being misogynistic. Anyway, that's what this argument is about. We'll go back to Maya's tweet, because you can read the rest of this thread. It's not that exciting. But she says, and this is a zinger, playing the cello isn't a lot like sex. Sex involves a small gamete fusing with a big gamete. Organisms have lots of ways of doing this. In mammals, it involves egg and sperm, copulation, etc. And this is good for many reasons, but obviously, I feel like if the definition of sex involves a gametes fusing, well, I'm a virgin. My lovely drinks delivering helper here pointed out that they're also a virgin, and probably most of the people watching this, I think anyone who's only ever had gay sex, anyone who's only ever used a condom. So maybe there's just a bit of confusion here, and Maya's only ever had sex 2 times or 3 times, and everyone has ended in a child. And maybe that's why she didn't understand. Well, no, I just love this little playing the cello isn't all like sex. So obviously the argument here is that playing the cello is something that humans do, and it's not something we've biologically got inside us, but it can be something that contributes to attractiveness and success in humans. So you could say there are actually loads of behaviors like that, and so that means that rape isn't necessarily it's not the only option for behavior isn't innate. There's also loads of others. But then there's obviously just a direct refutation of an example, but also it's just really funny because I feel like of all of the instruments to play, like cello is probably one of the ones most like sex. I don't know, like it, it's generally good, but you can do it very badly, and some people can absolutely master it, and it requires some good fingering and I don't know. So it's just another Mayor classic. I feel like we need to do a rundown of the top 10 Mayor Forsater quotes because one, I think she's an absolutely horrible person with disgusting beliefs, but she has no shame at all. And that is a quality that goes down very well with gender criticals because it means you can just say things like this just all the time. So, Zinger. So now we're going to look at something horrific. Oh god, there's so many drinks stacking up. Uh-huh, uh-huh. I hope you all like Aperol Spritz. Um, so this is some mixed martial arts guy. Don't really know who he is, to be honest. Some American, I think. He's obviously a right-wing knobhead. And here he is, saying something that if you saw without the next tweet that I'm going to show you, you might think, oh, he's doing the classic, the real Nazis are LGBT people. Because he says, one group wants to be left alone while the other one wants them in prison camps. It's pretty obvious why one group keeps winning while the other keeps losing. Losing. So, from watching this show and from existing as an LGBT person or someone who knows LGBT people, there are some anti-LGBT people who want to put us in camps. It literally happened before to LGBT people. But we also know from seeing how the, particularly like the Republicans act, they just Darvo everything. They just say, oh no, the LGBT people, they want to put us in camps, and that's why we're preemptively doing it to them. But you'd be like, okay, yeah, well, it's just a generic one of those tweets, and he's suggesting that that's why they're winning. But then, hours later, literally like 3 hours later or something, he said, would you support the public execution of anyone who helps a child transition? This would include doctors, therapists, teachers, guidance counselors, and of course, his replies were absolutely full of people saying, yes, I'd volunteer to do it, horrible graphic descriptions, pictures, cartoons and stuff. It's you, mate. Like, you're this one from the first tweet. One group wants to be left alone while the other one wants to put them in prison camps. It's us who want to be left alone, and it's you who's doing a fucking Nazi shit. I mean, literally hours later, talking about something even worse than prison camps, public executions. I mean, that's just it's crazy how these people manage to hold these such like polar opposite views in their minds at the same time, and just be cool with it. I keep flipping between they know what they're doing and they're just stupid and it's cognitive dissonance. It's just hard to know with some of them. Like some of the smarter ones, they're lying. I don't think this guy's very smart. Like he probably wrote both of these two things sincerely. It's just incredible. Like, how do you get into this state? How do you become someone like this? Asking for a friend. Just why? It's just mad. Anyway, so another thing from America now. We're going to listen to this clip, and I think you should be able to hear this. Drink number 4 has arrived. They're cute. They're cute. Okay, right. I'll try and drink some more. Go away. So we're going to listen to this absolutely horrible lady from Montana who's talking about trans healthcare. So let's listen and see what she has to say.
One of the big issues that we have heard today and we've talked about lately is that without surgery, the risk of suicide goes way up. Well, I am one of those parents who lived with a daughter who was suicidal for 3 years. Someone once asked me, wouldn't I just do anything to help save her? And I really had to think. And the answer was no. I was not going to give in to her emotional manipulation because she was incapable of making those decisions and I had to make those decisions for her. I was not going to let her tear apart my family, and I was not going to let her tear apart me because I had to be strong for her. I had to have vision for her life when she had none, was incapable of having none. I was lost. I was scared. I spent hours on the floor in prayer because I didn't know that when I woke up, if my daughter was going to be alive or not. But I knew that I had to make those right decisions for her so that she would have a precious, successful adulthood at that time.
So hopefully you could hear that. So if you couldn't, basically that was one of the sponsors of the bill to ban trans healthcare, and she said, we hear a lot about how, well, she mis-explained it, but she basically was referring to how banning trans healthcare increases suicidality amongst trans kids. Not just suicidality. People always talk about suicide as if it's the only thing. Like, oh, if you didn't commit suicide, then you're fine, and if you do commit suicide, then that's bad. But like, obviously, that goes along with anxiety, depression, long-term image issues, like loads of stuff. But I guess suicide is a very definite and easy thing to measure, and also a thing that you can actually sell to conservatives, because if you say, oh, it increases depression, I mean, lots of people, lots of conservatives, I guess, without being too sweeping a generalization, don't even believe that depression is real. But no one can deny that suicide is real because you can see it. But it is something that just factually does go up when you deny people healthcare. I mean, that's true for anyone's healthcare, but it's definitely true for trans people. And she then says, I had a child who was suicidal, and someone asked, wouldn't you do anything to stop them from doing that? And she said, no. I just think, like, who has this, like, it's just a totally different worldview. And it's just so mad. I would do anything to make my child happy. Like, not to the point where they would only eat ice cream for dinner, because obviously it doesn't make them happy. Long term, that would make them unhappy. You, as a parent, you have to do things sometimes that make your kid think they're unhappy in the short term because it makes them happy in the long term, like making them eat their greens and making them go to school and stuff. I hated going to school, and I'm glad my mum did it, forced me to go to school because it's what my entire foundation of my life is built on. But they always compare that to something like transition or dealing with depression or being gay, as if it's just like, oh, well, if I force you to be straight, if I force you to be cis, it's a bit like forcing you to do your maths homework. And no, it isn't. That isn't at all what it's like. And it's just, but then even then, like, even if you have that attitude of like, oh, I just need to force my kid into being a straight cis person and then their life will be better, even if you truly believe that, how could you possibly say you wouldn't do everything to save your kid from suicide because you have to make the right decisions? Like, what are you fucking talking about? If my kid, if I wanted my kid to do maths homework and they were genuinely on the edge of suicide, not just like, saying, no, I'm going to kill myself and slamming the door, but like literally a real serious situation, then it wouldn't make them do their maths homework. And like to describe that as emotional manipulation, like young children aren't emotionally manipulating their parents with suicide. Like it's just so, I don't know. It's just so grim. Like, are you really having to say to the world, like American Congress becomes world news and what's kind of, I don't know, it's Congress, American politicians, the stuff they say is internationally published, and we're watching it now here from mystery European location. Um, and you're just gonna say because you're so horrified at trans kids existing that you wouldn't even save your kid from suicide. Like, what is fucking wrong with you? The absolute state of these people. There's just how can anyone love their kids so little? Um, we just see this all the time. Like, I think that there's this kind of fundamental difference about the relationship people have with their kids, and I feel like most people who support LGBT kids realize that being a parent is about guiding your kid to live the best and happiest and safest life they can for them, given their circumstances. And helping them through things and accepting them and loving them for who they are. Whereas I think that there's another mindset which some people somehow get from somewhere. Maybe it's biologically innate. Maybe it's like playing the cello. But there's this other kind of view that your children are like your property and you should shape and mold them into what you think is best, or even what society says to you what would be best for your kids. And it's almost like if your kid comes out as LGBT, or if your kid is depressed, you're not worrying about them like, oh my god, they're having a bad life, I need to do something about this to help them. It's more like, God, what are they doing to me? This thing is my property and it's not performing correctly. Horrible. But on this topic, and I think one of the last things we're going to look at is I thought I would just highlight this petition. Oh, there's another drink coming. Why did I agree to having a drink for every different topic? There's like 4 drinks sitting here. I'll do my best. There is yet another petition, and we've talked about petitions a few times on this show. Can you see it? Yes, you can. So this petition is the current shitty UK government has threatened to forcibly out LGBT kids to their parents. This obviously includes the situation where a child comes out to a teacher and says, "Don't tell my parents," and then they're then forced to tell the parents. But this includes also if they suspect the child is LGBT, which is all obviously going to include all kinds of horrible stereotypes and them outing kids who aren't even LGBT to parents who may or may not have an issue with that. But like, even if you're a straight cis kid and your teacher's like, "Oh, I think they might be gay or they might be trans," and they tell your parents, like, that alone is so fucking cringe. But the reality is that some of this is way more than cringe. Some of this is way more than cringe, and it could be dangerous or even fatal. Some of my close friends who are LGBT were, physically assaulted and abused by their parents when their parents found out that they were gay or trans, and it's not rare. Like, LGBT kids are more likely to be abused by their parents after coming out than the general population. So this is like a thing. And there's just no excuse for this. There's no reasoning at all or justification to outing a kid, even if the parents are supportive and the kid tells their friend and the teacher overhears it. Imagine they're 16 years old and they go into school and they're like, right, I'm building up the courage. I'm finally going to tell my best friend I am trans. And they say it, teacher overhears it, teacher tells the parents, maybe the parents are supportive. Maybe this kid was going to tell their parents in 6 weeks' time when they had 3 or 4 of their friends on board and they were ready. All you've done now is make things more difficult for them. the parents aren't any more or less ready to help them, and it's taking their agency from them, and their own sort of planning. For what? For nothing. The only justification for this is it's people who see their kids as property, and they think if a teacher told me my child, no son of mine, if a teacher told me that my kid was trans or gay, I would send them to conversion therapy camp. That's the only reason for this. The people who are supporting this just think, oh well, maybe I could beat it out of them. Maybe I could talk them out of this. Like, it's just driven by disgust. Like, there's no with some of these things, like, oh, we should ban a trans woman from running in the marathon though she came 6,000th place. At least you can make some kind of argument that maybe she could have been the best runner there, and I don't think trans women should be running in races. Like, you could make an argument there, and we could have the discussion. There's no argument for this at all. This is like, do you think that kids should be protected from abusive parents or not? Should people be forced outed when they're not ready? For no benefit to anyone apart from child abusers. So anyway, we have Petition. This is for anyone outside of the UK. I don't know if you know, but we have this like official petitions website, which if we get like the government tracks these, and if we get enough signatures, then the government has to acknowledge it. So we're now at 6,000. It's pretty good actually, because this was at 1,000 this morning. So we're now at 6,000. We can make this hit 10,000, possibly even by the end of today. I think that's achievable. I'll put the link in the description for this. But if we get to 100,000 and have to debate it in Parliament, these petitions, I'm not going to try and pretend this achieves something. The point in these, like, for sure, they will respond. They'll say, we're going to do what we think's best. And if they have to debate it in Parliament, then the 7 or 8 gender critical MPs will come out and say that, trans kids are literally Satan. And then the 3 or 4 pro LGBT MPs will come out and they'll say a load of statistics, and then they'll just do the same thing anyway. But what this does do, I'm getting no water, that's a subtle hint. What this does do is constantly show the government that we are going to be a problem. If they want, like, they've been, what? I just dropped a headphone. I hope you can still hear me. Sorry. They have been planning this, push to take trans people out of the Equality Act for ages, and the gender critical movement has been moving on this for years. And it took them so long, and the help from billionaire, one of the richest, most famous people on earth, J.K. Rowling, just to get their petition above 100,000 after months. We did it in days. We did it in 4 days. We smashed a number of likes. People are talking about it. It shows the community that we support each other. It shows, if you're cis and straight, it shows you that you support us, and it gives us that energy and to not just feel constantly crushed. And it shows the government that, look, there are fucking hundreds of thousands of us, and we're going to take to the streets. We're going to make everything difficult for you. This is going to affect your future as an elected representative because we won't vote for you, and much more. And I think that is important, to just constantly show things. And the reason these petitions I think are worth sharing rather than just totally ignoring is that it is just 2 clicks and it's an official government one. So they have to note this down. This has to be a thing. When the next government gets in power, they have to acknowledge the fact that, oh, the previous government didn't really do anything with this, and maybe we should now have a consultation. So it's nothing, kind of, but it's a signal to LGBT people that we're here for each other. And I think that is enough on its own. And it's a signal to politicians that we're here for each other, which is not what they want at all. So I'm going to call the show here. We've run for like 45 minutes. I hope this wasn't a total fucking disaster. I hope that you could hear what I was saying. I hope I didn't look too horrific. I hope you enjoyed the Aperol Spritz. But yeah, let me know about my first ever show on the road. I think I'm going to have this. I don't know if I'll even let people see this afterwards. Maybe you're part of an elite few. The 300 of you watching, thank you very much. but maybe I'll put it as like a KTU Turf Wars on the Road episode, and this can be like episode 0. So the next time I will leave more than half an hour to do the setup, and I will get things working. But this is my old laptop, which can't do green screens. Not that I have a green screen anyway. The webcam doesn't work. So this is actually my phone, which is being used as a webcam, which is an app I discovered about 5 minutes after I should have gone live. These aren't my headphones. It's very ramshackle. But I've had a good holiday so far. I'm going to have a good rest of my holiday. And I have enjoyed doing the show. I was debating to cancelling it, but I do like doing this. It helps me vent, and I really appreciate everyone in my community, but also the general trans community. Anyway, I think that the next episode will actually be after I'm back, which I might do for a different date, or it might just be in 2 weeks' time. Again, pay attention to Twitter and YouTube for this. I will let you know. Thanks everyone for being here. Let's see if I can press the right hotkey for this. So, okay, thanks for watching everyone. I'll enjoy my onslaught of apples, but bye!